Hello, everyone, and welcome to Seriously Loco, the Seriously Crazy fan podcast for El Paso Locomotive FC. I am your host, Phil Bakke, and I'm joined tonight by my co-host, Mika Burrell. Mika, not a win, which has been rare for Locomotive these days, but keeping the unbeaten streak going. We're in double digits now, so good days amongst Locomotive fans. But how was your weekend otherwise?
It was good, Phil. It was good. This draw, as it were, it's weird because we've definitely had draws that feel like losses, but this is like the rare draw that feels like a win, and we'll get into why we think that is, and maybe those listening don't feel that way and see it as 2 points dropped, which it is, factually speaking, but I think considering all the circumstances, like, this is not a bad result at all, so...
Yeah, going away to San Antonio. We'll talk a little bit about that, and just generally, how things played out. If you are finding the podcast for the first time, we are Seriously Loco. Talk all things El Paso Locomotive. We talk some USL news, and we've got a presence on basically every major podcast platform. Anywhere you get your podcasts, you can follow along, subscribe, like whatever it allows, and you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, primarily on social media, but we've also got Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon as well. If you like what you see, then, or hear, I guess here, if you like what you hear, then check us out. And we'll kind of dive right in. But before we get to the draw in San Antonio and the game that was a big, Copa Tejas clash in Central Texas there, but first, we want to talk a little bit about some news from New Mexico United, because on the last episode after the Derby win, we talked about Zach Prince and his abrupt departure from New Mexico United, and it was confirmed today that he's joining the staff at New York Red Bull, and rejoining his old boss. What's his name?
Troy Lesane.
Jesus Christ. That just, it was like, I don't know. It's like those movies where like somebody is cursed and can't remember a specific name, and it's just like out of their mind, like they try to say it and it's just static or something. Anyways, well, we got a new announcement today from New Mexico United, and we got a question from @Nico11 on Twitter. Any thoughts on the new hire by the guys up north? And to add to Nick's question, for anyone who doesn't know, it was announced today that Eric Quill, who most recently was an assistant at the Columbus Crew, but previously a manager at North Texas SC in USL League One, he was announced as the new Mexico United, the new New Mexico United boss. So Mika, any initial thoughts on Eric Quill and what he brings to the table for United, and what Locomotive fans can expect from their rivals?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good, objectively speaking, that New Mexico have got someone in very quickly, because that just ends that uncertainty and it ends that kind of void. And it gives the fans something new to move on to and talk about, because I think that pretty much everyone was stunned by Zach Prince's departure, especially, given the circumstances. He's just coming off a loss to us, and we know that the decision was made well before then, but still, optics are a thing, and I think that Peter Trevisani and his charges have done well to fill that void pretty much immediately. Now, with Eric Quill himself, I will not sit here and act like I've ever seen him coach a single game. I have not watched his football. I can't comment to that. I do know, though, that he was the manager of a very successful North Texas side that fielded one Ricardo Pepi. So I find it very interesting that New Mexico United had to go to Texas to find their talents. Yeah, the Missouri City, Texas native making his way up to Albuquerque. But yeah, I think it's just good more than anything that they got someone in relatively quickly. But I know you've got some thoughts on kind of his time at North Texas and maybe some advantages he had.
I mean, listen, Eric could be an absolutely fantastic manager for all I know. And being connected to what was a very strong Dallas FC Dallas Academy, there's clearly a lot going on there. But his first year in charge in 2019, they won USL League One. Finished first in the league, won the playoffs as well. And it could be easy to jump to like, well, he must be a solid manager. I think in terms of relative strength of his squad, I don't know that there's ever been a bigger gap between kind of the relative level of a champion and the rest of the league. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a team that at any given point included Ricardo Pepi, Ronaldo Damas, Johan Gomez, Jonathan Gomez, Brian Reynolds, who's at Roma. He's been on loan like ever since he joined Roma 3 years ago. But Brian Reynolds and Jimmy Moore, who's, an MLS goalkeeper, like now pretty consistently. Brandon Cervania, who's still like tearing up League One. And so there's a number of players here who are playing at the highest level right now. And I just think in terms of, Ja'Cory Hayes, like this is basically like a League One all-star team and a bunch of guys who have gone to Europe. I mean, you're talking Jonathan Gomez, who's now playing at Sociedad, and getting some first team minutes towards the tail end of this season as well. Obviously Ricardo Pepi, no introduction needed in the borderland, but this is a significantly talented squad. So I'm a little hesitant to like pour too much praise on Eric Quill, the manager, before we understand what he can do with his own team, not an MLS B side that has the draw and like the support of a big academy. Like obviously New Mexico has their own academy, but they're not pumping out the likes of Pepi and Reynolds and Gomez yet. So I think we've got, it'll be a little bit, I think, before we understand just how good Eric Quill is. And I think this is really kind of the first the first true test of his mettle as a coach, because he isn't being backed by one of the, best academies in the country.
Well, there you have it. I mean, yeah, no, I think you make a good point about that roster being really stacked, and then, it sounds like they won the league at a canter. I don't know. I didn't look at the table or anything, but I mean, yeah, those are all players that are, moved on to much bigger and better things. Do you think, though, that they get the new manager bounce? Because, for what it's worth, we've never had that in our existence. We've never gotten a new manager bounce. And to be fair, our new manager starts at the beginning of the season, so it's not like it's a mid-season type thing like this. But, I mean, do you think he can kind of spark something different immediately?
I I think he's got a pretty favorable run of games. Aside from us, on July 1st, they play RGV, Phoenix, who obviously not in great form, although I will say check out John Morrissey's latest Substack article on his USL Tactics page on like what's up with Phoenix basically, and why are they sneaky good and just not performing, or are they actually bad? Colorado Springs, who've kind of been found out. Then they play us, then Vegas, who are probably the worst team in the league, and then Detroit. So they've got a pretty favorable run here. I'd say RGV Phoenix on form could be gotten at. Colorado Springs, absolutely. Vegas, absolutely. Detroit, absolutely. Like, so if he can build some confidence back in the side, then by the time they hit this mid-season friendly against Sunderland, and then
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
and then take on Sac Republic on July 22nd, they could have built up a nice little run of form if he can get it together and they can get that bounce. But I don't know that there's really, if you could pick Western Conference games to play, and definitely of the Eastern Conference opponents, Detroit's probably the one that you'd want. So yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty decent run here for the new boss.
Fair enough. We said last time that we would not become a New Mexico United manager podcast, and here we are. But I didn't want to ignore Nick's question.
No, it's I mean, I think we've given him enough airtime, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes, and obviously we all hope it's a train wreck. So
preach.
No pun intended. So so on to the game that was the Seriously Loco match review. Absolute thriller at the weekend. San Antonio 2, El Paso Locomotive 2 in Locomotive's first Copa Tejas match of the season, I think. Right?
I believe that's yes.
Yeah. Kind of crazy with all the games that we played that we haven't played anybody from Texas yet. But
right.
it was goals galore, especially as far as Locomotive goes, because Locomotive so far this season have been pretty staunch defensively ever since that loss to Detroit. And friend of the pod, Eric Bauer at eBau27 on Twitter he said we didn't seem to be quite as sharp defensively as previous games in this 10-game unbeaten run. What did you see San Antonio do effectively to cause us so many problems? So I guess we can start there in terms of we had some frailties. What from your perspective, Mika, what was it that undid Locomotive's game plan in San Antonio?
I mean, I've got a lot of time for Alan Marcina and San Antonio FC, to be honest. I mean, they are the reigning champions, so I think that does carry some weight. And when I say I've got a lot of time for them, I mean, I respect what they do. I don't necessarily like their football per se, but put it this way, like they're a much more serious proposition to me than our derby rivals at this current moment. And I don't mean to kick them while they're down. I mean, I do, but San Antonio are just a different beast. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is the most direct, most physical, most imposing side we've faced this season. And we had to go on the road to do it. And, add Copa Tejas on there, the kind of Texas rivalry. Some of our folks were in the house, namely Christian, who we'll see if he can join us tonight or not. But he was there with his family. So, I mean, all of these different things, I think, kind of added to the narrative stew, as it were. But on the pitch, I mean, they were just lights out, especially in that first half. I kept thinking, there's no way this press continues, and the pressure was on for that whole 45 minutes and change. Got very chippy towards the end of that first half as well, and I think the game kind of it went down that road from there of being really quite aggressive. But yeah, I think just by far the most aggressive side that we faced yet. And I mean, just look at the stats. They really weren't interested in having the ball, right?
Mm-mm.
But they were very interested in pressuring us into corners, in launching the ball into our box as often as possible to a bunch of big bodies that they've got there, Tainter, Adinaran, Dylan, and the rest. And they put the ball in the net like several times. If not for the offside flag, we would have gotten battered. So yeah, I think, you could say maybe we weren't quite as sharp defensively, but I actually just want to give the credit to San Antonio for being as aggressive as they were.
Yeah, I think they take their opportunities, and I mean, not to make this essentially just me citing all of John Morrissey's work at USL Tactics, but
at least you're citing your work.
Not just passing it off as my own. He talked about just a couple of days ago put out a couple of graphs about how direct teams play
Mm.
and like share of possession, average share of possession versus shot creation. And San Antonio are among the highest teams in the league in terms of shots on target per 90,
Mm.
and the most direct team in the league in terms of long pass percentage by their goalkeeper. So 90% of the time far goes
Goes
long.
long.
They
Yeah.
they don't play out of the back at all. Only 10% of the time do they try to play it out, right? And they have on average about 42% of the ball. And that's on average. So by far the lowest share of possession in the league, by far the most direct, and they are right up there with like Sac Republic, Memphis in terms of shots on target per 90. So it's effective, like, and it's been effective. You know, won them a title last year. I think the difference kind of bears out in this game, the difference between last year's team and this year's team, in that there is a fragility there from San Antonio that just wasn't there last year. Like, if Tainer scores the opener, you know, you take last year's San Antonio team, Tainer scores an opener off a corner, Locomotive don't get a sniff of goal for 90 minutes. Like,
Right.
it just was how it played out. Like, they just you couldn't get near like threatening that a San Antonio team with a lead. It was like playing like peak Mourinho, just absolutely maddening. And now I think there is a little bit of that fragility, which leads to, you know, more of that. But talking about the goals specifically, I mean, we start with Tainer's, with it coming in the first few minutes. A rare set piece concession for this Locomotive side, and one of those where the ball just kind of keeps drifting to the back post, and like Eric McHugh kind of caught underneath it. Calvillo's in the area, but it really was just like one of those where you're kind of left like set piece goals we really should deal with. But it has been a rare occurrence for this Locomotive side to give up a set piece goal.
It's been a rare occurrence to give up a set piece goal, but it has not been a rare occurrence to give up threatening sequences from corners.
Fair.
And again, look at the stats. San Antonio, 9 corners to our 4. I mean, they were absolutely putting us in the pressure cooker in our half and just trying to get those opportunities. And with this one, I think the set piece that they actually do run is really clever because everyone goes near post except Mitchell Tainer, and no one seems to really know who's supposed to be on him. Or I mean, maybe if I want to give the player a little bit more credit, he's just first to the ball and attacks it really well, and the header's perfect down into the pitch where Benny Diaz really can't do much about it. Bounces in. So yeah, when in watching it in real time, like I think in the past I would have said like, oh, we got to be better there, but to me it's just like a really, really good goal, and you know, not the way that you want to open such a huge match like this on the road, but at the same time, like you did feel like with the energy of the match that we would respond, and we have responded in similar situations this season.
We are joined by Christian Canales. Christian, welcome first and foremost, but secondly, with that first goal going in, obviously as a traveling fan in San Antonio, not the ideal start, but how was like the atmosphere and then the response after the opener?
Thanks. I mean, it was devastating to concede that early because we just haven't done that, you know. Outside of, I think it might have happened in one of those first 3 games that that we lost, but that just hasn't happened this year, and so it was a really big gut punch, especially considering kind of the magnitude of this match. There's a lot of, I'm sure you guys have mentioned, but there was just a lot of storylines in this match, and so to be hit like that so quickly was really disheartening. But the like Mika had said, there's just so much fight in this team, and you hoped that they would respond quickly, and they did soon enough.
Well, Yeah, let's talk about the Gomez goal because obviously the way that Locomotive find their way back into this, and obviously with the quick response, we've seen it. It's not the first time this season that we've seen Locomotive respond well to adversity. We talked about it in the San Diego match. Like they seem to find a way to get what they need in those moments, and obviously a little bit of luck about the goal in terms of the long ball goes forward from McHugh, and the bounce takes it over the head of Jordan Farr, who came out to clear it. But also, I guess not the first time that a keeper has misjudged a ball and led to a relatively simple goal for Locomotive. But the goal, not that simple of a finish for Gomez, I would argue, in terms of the angle that he has to take, and obviously the perfect response. I was just gonna say the perfect response, as he said.
I was like, and on his right foot, which has been an absolute albatross this year.
Yeah, he has been a meme on his right, and really well taken goal. Far coming out of his net, obviously a little bit rare in terms of he's not the sort to sweep often. It doesn't seem. Because they don't play a very high line, like they don't really do all that. But he found himself in unfamiliar territory, and Gomez capitalized. But Mika, I mean, Gomez getting on the score sheet feels good, like in a season context, because it feels like he's been due to score for quite some time now, and just hasn't been getting the rub of the green. And here he gets a bit of a lucky bounce over the head of the goalkeeper, and then does finish well to make sure he takes the chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a finish into an empty net, but that is much harder than it looks. I mean, like Christian said, he's taking it on his really weak foot, I think it's fair to say. But that angle is not straightforward at all, and you could easily screw that wide or hit it too hard, and then it's flying quite a way quite a ways away to the corner flag or something like that. But he keeps it on the ground, but gives it enough power that no one can catch up to it. That's in black and white. So yeah, it's a great finish. I'm happy for him because I think that he's done all of the things right to deserve that kind of an opportunity, and kind of a heads up play from Eric McHugh. It's his first assist ever in Locomotive Blue, so congratulations to him. I think we've sang McHugh's praises on this podcast before, and we often talk about Benzi Pavkovic on the ball, but Eric McHugh's got a bit about him as well. So fair play to him. And I mean, I don't think we can get away from talking about the offside singular argument. I'm sorry. That is one of my like soccer snob things. It's not offsides. It's offside. Unless you're talking about multiple offside. Which
in this
plural.
case we are.
Yes, there are offsides in this game, but each one is an offside. So that was just my petty rant there. But I mean, it's Brian says in his training press conference today, his post-training press conference, it was not offside. I have the video. And I'm like, drop the video so we can shut these people up, because the clips that people were clipping up were just in such bad faith. Like you cannot see the run of Josue Aron Gomez to say one way or another whether it's offside. So the fact that people were like, this is a disgrace, it's like, it's really not. But that's my take. I don't know if anyone agrees or disagrees.
Well,
Christian, I mean, you were there, so you know whether it was on or offside.
So this particular goal, I'm useless for two reasons.
That's right.
Number one, I had a buddy that was that I was visiting with, because he lives in San Antonio, and they were sitting in the row behind me, so I was distracted at the moment. But also the guy next to me was standing for a lot of the match, which fair play to him. He was a Locomotive fan too, so I didn't particularly mind. So even as I turned around, when I heard the noises, I still didn't see anything. The first indication I had was that everyone was running to the corner. That was a goal, so I had no idea that we scored. And that is also say I was on the complete like opposite corner, so I was sitting like bottom left and the goal, or bottom right and the goal happened top left. So I would have had no view. What I did have perfect view of were the two disallowed San Antonio goals. The first one, can't say 100% sure not it was close. It was a close one. But the set piece, the free kick that was disallowed was off. There was like 8 people offside for San Antonio in that one, and there are people complaining about that one, and I can't even understand it. That was an easy call to make.
Yeah, I will say the Dylan goal. I mean, first off, Mika, absolutely, it's one of those things where it's like if you have a screenshot, a still frame, and it doesn't include the moment that the ball is making contact with the foot, right? Like, of the pass, then you don't have proof of offside. Like, you just don't.
Period, point blank. It may have could have been. I'm just saying those screenshots don't show it.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, USL, the linesman's decision is what matters. Like, so we don't have video proof that it was wrong. So you stick with the ruling on the field. Like,
I know that this isn't always conclusive, but it is instructive? Question mark is the reaction of the opponents. And Jordan Farr is more pissed off with himself than anything. Mm-hmm. Defenders for San Antonio are not protesting the decision, and we know they like to protest about everything.
They protested plenty. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it's like if that was truly offside, like I think we would have heard about it on the pitch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the only person who holds his hand up is Maloney, and he was the one, like, he's the one who Gomez ran off the shoulder of, so that's kind of the obvious, like, that's the obvious go-to of, like, we just conceded, I'm gonna hold my hand up, like, and ask the question, but no one else, it's not like they, they would have surrounded the official, like, that just would have happened. The second, the Dylan disallowed goal, I will say is tough to exactly see because he's coming back from offside. Like he's trying to come back because it's a cleared corner that comes out to, I think, Tainer, who plays a cross, like kind of a looped cross back in. And it is tough, like, to exactly see whether he made it all the way back onside or whether he was just coming back from an offside position and then, like, doesn't reestablish, before the ball's played. So one of those that is, like, it's tough to tell from the video, but the linesman is exactly looking down the line, and I could see how he's given it. The second, the set piece on TV, oddly enough, Christian, it's good that you saw because they did what is my least favorite thing in about any USL production, which is they, for whatever reason, are showing the free kick from, like, behind the free kick taker until he takes it, and then they go back to the wide angle, like, suddenly, and so you can't tell what's happening in the box, like, and it's just absolutely pointless, like, these weird USL production decisions of going close on people, like, while the ball's in play, or zooming in on free kick takers, like, there's something like out of the ordinary is going to happen. It's just bizarre. Like, just give me the wide angle so that I can see what the hell's happening.
I think secondary to all of the offsides that happened or is the stones on Brian Clarehout to play an offside trap in USL Championship. Like, we'll never see anything like this ever again.
You can't trust these linesmen. Like, it's like
but I mean,
it's like,
they were on it though. They really were, and they were. Yeah. I just have never seen anything like that.
Right.
And I've never seen it employed so well, and, like, the faith that we were implicitly showing to the linesman was just, like, blowing my mind. I'm like, this is gonna go so wrong eventually. But yeah.
Well, we talked about mistakes, obviously, for the Gomez goal. There is a mistake on the Locomotive side for San Antonio's second. Adniran gets his first goal of the season. Um, and it comes from just a bit of switching off, it seems, from Locomotive defensively, where Liam Rose like attempts to commit a tactical foul in the middle of the park, and because he's committing the foul, everyone else has already stopped, um, and is flat-footed, or they are flat-footed, I should say, when the ball's played through to Adniran, and he runs through on net and finishes well 1v1 against Diaz, but really one of those goals that it seemed like people were assuming the result of the play prior to that result actually taking place, which is everybody's assuming that Liam's going to be whistled for a foul, and meanwhile the ball is still in play and advantage is being played to San Antonio.
Yeah, Christian, I'm curious how you saw this one in the park, because I remember you texting like, "Damn, we keep making mistakes," and we're like, "Wait, what happened?" Because we're on a delay, obviously.
And I was trying to wait too. Like I would wait like 15 seconds, but apparently that wasn't enough. But yeah, it was bad, and I saw it happening the whole time because, you know, it's Justin Dillon, and like the dude is a beast, and so of course he's still gonna manage to get the ball off, and I guess what was frustrating to me is that, like you said, Phil, it seemed like everyone switched off even before the ref decided to blow advantage or to play advantage. Like they saw, oh, Liam's wrapping him up, I'm just gonna stop running, like without even waiting to see what was gonna happen. And so, credits to Justin Dillon, he gets a really good pass off, and that was it. You know, he was in. So I mean, it was for me, it was happening in like slow motion. Saw it happening all the way, and it was again just very disappointing.
I mean,
It's
yeah, what a finish though by Adinaran. I mean, it's not like he's, under any significant pressure. It's pretty much one on one with Benny Diaz, and he curls it. I just want to give a little praise to him because I thought he was excellent. I mean, I wasn't familiar with his game, you might say. He can move for a big man, and like he doesn't have a weak foot, it would seem. I mean, the way that his technique is truly something else when he was sending in crosses, when he was taking shots of his own. A player that I'd love to have at Locomotive, to be honest. I mean, he's really, really good and pops up on the score sheet. So just wanted to give praise for an opponent because he was really quite good, and he probably won't score a goal easier than that, but I just thought his overall game was good.
Yeah, the goal itself is one of those. I know there was suspicion of offside on this one too. Having watched it a couple of times, I don't think so. I think he's made the run well, and I think the reason that there's a suspicion of offside is because of that like flat-footedness from Locomotive, where no one is in motion. So him making that run looks like
it's too easy.
It looks so easy, where it implies like he must be offside because he's in such a good position, but it really was because he was running off of a static line, and it was easy for him to time it because no one was stepping up or making it tougher for him to make that run. So it ends up being relatively straightforward, but like you said, a good finish. And yeah, he was a bit of a menace. And we talked about the ability of Brian to find a way to limit the maybe the danger men. And I think the thing is that he still was quite limited in that he only has 2 shots. It's just one of them went in. So,
it's
so
Jimmy,
he only had 11 touches as well, which is efficiency, I guess you would say. 1 goal off 11 touches.
And speaking of those stats, I don't know if it was different to you on TV, but it did not look like we outpossessed them, or it did not feel like we outpossessed them by as much as we did. I felt like they had the ball all damn game. but apparently we outpossessed them 65-35. Did it?
Yeah,
I mean,
and they
was
completed less than 100 passes.
yeah, like did it feel like that to you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's because they were putting so much pressure on that, like, to your eye, the ball is in our half so much. So it's like, well, they must have more possession. It's like, no, they're just like, it's just a shooting gallery. They're
Yeah.
constantly trying to take shots on net. And I think they end up having like 3 big chances. So yeah, I think we had like more short passes that really did not look as threatening as what they were doing on the ball when they had it.
Well, and they end up creating, of their 12 shots that they, shots were 13 to 12 in favor of Locomotive, but 6 of San Antonio's shots come from inside the box. 10 of Locomotive shots come from outside the box. So they only had 3 inside, which is just, I think, indicative of kind of what you're talking about, Christian, where it's like, man, it did not feel like we had the ball as much, but it's probably just that we had the ball in less threatening areas for much of the game than San Antonio, where we talked about it. One of the things is they're super direct. They barely have the ball. Like, they average about 42% possession, but they are among the best in shot creation. So yeah, 97 passes to create 12 shots is really crazy. So I don't love it, but it is, damn if it's not effective. The one storyline, though, Christian, you mentioned storylines, and the storyline of this game from a Locomotive perspective, and probably from a San Antonio perspective in the end, because it does directly impact the outcome of this game, was, I guess, what we're dubbing Evil Lucho. Villain Lucho. We saw in right at the halftime whistle, we saw a hard foul from Lucho Soloniak, kind of a shoulder barge on I guess, who was it over there on that near sideline?
Was it Gomez or?
Yeah, I think it might have been Gomez. Anyways, he kind of barges him in the back and gets a yellow card for his trouble, and follows that up with what could only be described as a sort of like crude gesture about maybe a defender growing balls. I don't know how to politely say this. Can we say balls?
Shot.
Where's the FCC rep? No. So we got a question from @OneStarGalileo on Twitter. What are we naming this? Christian, you got any thoughts on?
I just sent it to you guys in the Slack, but I think you just keep it simple and you just call it huevos.
It must be, right? Lucho's huevos.
Oh my goodness! It's
new sponsored dish at Crave just dropped.
Oh my god, he completely. I was in shock, because first of all, the challenge is violent. The ball is clearly going out. I guess, and Christian, maybe you can fill in the blanks, but I suppose he was upset about some calls being missed on him. Lucho was, and so he completely spine barges Shannon Gomez into the ground, and the ball's way gone. He's not challenging for the ball at all, and it's violent. He's very lucky not to see a red card, I think. And I do think we have to be a little bit honest about that. Then Mitchell Tainer barges him, and Brian Clarehout's like, "Oh, it was a headbutt," and trying to defend his player. Who, to be fair, I think Brian was probably in shock too. But
the look on his face, at least from the TV angle, when he turns and sees that it was Lucha, I think it is
he just holds his hand out calma type
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, I don't think he expected. I don't think anyone expected that. We've never really. I mean, Lucho can get prickly, right, on the
Mhm.
pitch if he's not getting the ball enough or if he's not getting calls. But I don't think we've ever seen like physical manifestation of that like we did on Saturday night. So, but what followed after that, like if you're gonna do that and still stay on the pitch, like you got to make it worth it. And to be fair, I think he did.
Christian, what did you make, like, being there? I guess Lucho obviously he adopted a villain role, and like he really soaked it up. Like he really was enjoying being the antagonist in San Antonio. It felt like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, just from the interactions that we've had with him and stuff, like, it's hard for me to believe that, like, he, like, I don't know, like you said, enjoying, like, I don't, that just doesn't seem like him. So I think that it was I, I think he was just pissed, and rightly so, because, I mean, there were, for all the offside and all that, there was a lot of stuff, like a lot of physical play that was not getting called. And so I think it just hit a head, and, every every man has his breaking point. And I think it also helps too that, some of these people are people that he's played with before, that were teammates with him, that he shared a locker room with. So I think that, that makes it just easier, I guess, to let your emotions get the better of you.
We see after, well, in general, we saw Brian kind of held off on his typical, like he's pretty standard with his, he makes a sub on the hour just like we all do in FIFA, right? Like he that's where he kind of pulls the trigger on the first subs. We saw him wait an extra 10 minutes, and it was almost like he was waiting for maybe a response to San Antonio's second goal, right on the hour mark. Like rather than making a panic change, he kind of was waiting for a response, didn't get it. So we see basically a double change where Chapa comes on for Costichin, and Miles Lyons comes on for Mark Navarro, which has been a kind of typical first change, where it seems like Brian is just managing Mark's minutes a little bit and trying to reduce like injury risk, which I think, fair enough. And then just about 5 minutes later, we saw Emmanuel Sinupe come on for Zaka, and Nick Hines came on for Borelli. In the build-up to, like, three of those players are involved in the build-up to Lucho's equalizer. Three of those four subs. Nick Hines is playing. He comes on like ostensibly as just a left back replacement. He's playing as a 10. Like in this move, at least, like he's occupying a space on the edge of the area. Sinupe is actually like linking with Miles Lyons out on the right, which we haven't really seen from him. But he's linking in midfield, and Miles Lyons. We've talked about the quality that he's shown and just how good he's looked throughout the season, but he delivers an absolute peach of a cross at the end of this move for Lucho to hammer home. And for being his first professional assist and his first assist of the season, I mean, it seems like it's taken a long time for him to get it, but this from Miles Lyons was a piece of quality that Locomotive just hadn't produced really up to that point in the match. And seeing those links or those link ups of the subs, it did just like breathe a little bit of a new life into Locomotive's attack, and obviously Lucho, the man that you want on the end of a cross like that.
I have so much to say about this goal, because the obvious thing is like, what a finish, right? I mean, just all that power right into the roof of the net. Nothing Jordan Farr can do about it, and he knows it. Just an amazing finish, and Lucho kind of does the like no celebration, like pretty sarcastic, kind of running by the San Antonio fans, his former fans. I guess he's now officially like persona non grata down there. But
this is part of like the villain thing, because he runs by the stand and just stares into the stand. Like that was, it was cold, because it was definitely not the like.
No, yeah, it wasn't.
It's definitely not the
showing
hands
deference.
up. I'm not celebrating. Like he stared into the crowd.
It was like, I am him.
Yeah.
It's an incredible finish, and I mean, you talk about how Brian Clarehout waited a little longer to make the subs, and I thought that was, in hindsight, a masterstroke, because it just gave us that little bit more time for LMRC's side to get more tired, because again, that first half, like, I just don't understand how they could have sustained that. The pressure did drop off a little bit in the second half, and by that time that we made those subs, it seemed like we could get on the front foot, and so we did. I don't want to make too much of this, but I just want to say in 13 minutes, I thought Nick Hines was great. I mean, just a really good, like, pressure release valve. Had, won a tackle, made 2 recoveries, made a foul, 2 passes into the final third, one of which is part of this buildup, as you said. And then Miles Lyons, I mean, putting that pace and that energy and those young legs up against a Shannon Gomez who had just been battered, right? Not 30 minutes ago into the ground by Lucho Soloniak, and then having, run up and down the flank all game long for San Antonio. Miles doesn't really even have to make the space. I mean, he does drop the shoulder on him, but Shannon Gomez never really gets close to him anyway. So, not that I want to bring the cross down at all. It's a fantastic cross, but it's not the best defending we've ever seen. I mean, he's guarding the space and maybe trying to stop the cross from farther out, but he doesn't get touch tight at all. And so, I think, it's a mixture of both of those things of maybe Gomez being tired, but also Miles Lyons having that burst and putting him off. And then he just rifles it into the box, and Lucho's able to use the pace on that ball to just roof it. And it's just the way that I yelled was embarrassing. But I mean, just one of the best goals you'll see, and it's up for goal of the week. So go and vote.
Christian, I mean, seeing it in the building, obviously, I'm assuming the yell that you let out when it went in was also embarrassing, but obviously in a very different context than Mika's.
It was guttural, feral, almost.
Feral.
Yeah, I think I might have given some children nightmares, because they had like the mascot kids, like the ones that walk out with the players in front. They were all sitting a few rows in front of me, and I know I wasn't like making eye contact with them, but I saw them like turning around out of my peripheral. Because
you weren't making eye contact with them, but Lucho was. He was staring directly into their souls.
Yeah, basically. And so, it was great. It was fantastic. And it was just one of those where, felt like we just scored like a 90th minute winner. Because it had been that kind of match.
It is. I mean, we talk about, it's the old cliche, because the winning streak is over at 7, right? Am I wrong? So seven wins straight. The unbeaten streak continues though. And I mean, Christian talking about it feeling like a winner. This does feel like the type of game that a good team, or that a if this team wasn't serious, they wouldn't have found a way back into it. And the fact that this team, despite not being at their very best for 90 minutes, finds 2 goals in San Antonio to come away with a point, it does feel like the mark of, that old cliche, the mark of a good team.
Yeah, I mean, it's who Brian has turned this team into, just very scrappy. And, the goal is always to score first, because I think that the team feels more comfortable doing that. But they've shown, a couple of times this season that even if that doesn't go our way, that they have it in them to fight. They're not ones to put their head down and you know, call it a day. As long as there's time on the clock, that they're fighting for those goals.
You know, I was talking to a friend of the pod, Eric, and I was telling him, you know, it almost feels like when we concede first, it's like, well, thank you, because you've liberated us to now go ham and actually like wake up a little bit. And so, I mean, it's not the first time this season, right, that we've had to respond rather than be the one setting the tone immediately. And of course, you don't want to make that a habit or anything, but I do think, you know, we never lead on the night and we have to take that into account. But again, to respond the way that we did twice, you know, and you know, by the grace of the referees, to be fair, we could have definitely been down a man. I think is really important, and I think clearly Brian is coaching these players to take those opportunities and you know, score goals when the game state is in your favor. And you know, there were times in past iterations of Locomotive where we didn't see that. So just big credit to Brian and John and the coaching staff for instilling that kind of mentality.
Yeah, and I love, you know, I think we joke about villain Lucho and all these things, but I do love the idea of a Locomotive. You know, we've talked about Locomotive's road struggles in the past, and the fact that it was easy for like heads to drop sometimes, especially when they went down. And you know, you think about some of these like big defeats that Locomotive would sometimes be on the end of on the road, where they just kind of get smacked sometimes. And you know, now it does feel like there has been a mentality change in a pretty serious way. And I love the idea of the players going in to these more hostile environments, because let's giving credit where it's due. And I know, Christian, you could probably speak more to this, but you know, San Antonio does have a really solid fan base, and they do a good job of creating a good atmosphere in Toyota Stadium, not HEB Park, like I said last time. Although it should be HEB Park, but no, they create a good atmosphere. They have like they have a solid fan base, as I said, and I think like the fact that Locomotive goes into, it seems like they almost relish these opportunities to play in hostile environments. That just feels like a significant change from Locomotive in the past. But Christian, I mean, overall, wrapping up the match, like game day experience, all that stuff, as an away fan in San Antonio, how'd you find it?
I gotta tell you, it was a little bit disappointing. There were no stray cats in my bed. You know, what else happened? There were no stray cats. None of my personal belongings were confiscated.
Yo, talk about that humidity though, because just watching it on TV, I was like, the TV is waterboarding me. I can't imagine being there.
Yeah, I mean, no, but in all honesty, it was great. Going back to your first question, Phil, but the humidity was terrible. My dumbass read the match time wrong, because I had looked at it when I was still in El Paso, and so FOTMOB was giving me 7 o'clock. So I didn't even think about it when I was in San Antonio. And I was getting dropped off because we were renting a car, or borrowing a car, so my wife dropped me off right before 7, and I was like, great, I'm not here too early, you know, I'm gonna make it before the game starts, and gates aren't even open because I show up at like 6:55 and the match doesn't start till 8. So then I had to wait an hour in that humidity, like you mentioned, Mika. And yeah, it was, I have lost my acclimation to it. I finished 2 bottles of water in the 1 hour before the match started, because man, it was rough. It's one of those ones where like you just feel like the sweat just like rolling down your back.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing you can do about humidity other than not go outside. I mean, at least here in El Paso, in the dry heat, just like go in the shade in your Gucci.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Oh no.
Yeah, and
Bless
there
you.
was like no breeze either. There was like no air circulation. It was terrible.
Jeez.
But yeah, I mean the stadium is really nice. And wasn't the crowd, at least where I was, wasn't particularly hostile or anything. So it was a good experience. Good experience. Hopefully, get more chances to go down there. Hopefully, you guys can join as well.
Yeah.
Was the scran any good?
We had just went to dinner with a friend, and honestly, so like they have like an upper and a lower deck, kind of. And I was in the upper, and I just did not feel like venturing to go look. So I didn't get anything except for water when I went up, and I didn't bother going back down. So I failed in that regard.
Was the scran at dinner good?
It was. It was. We had Thai. We had Thai food. So I
Nice.
had what did I even have? I had like a barbecued pork, like a barbecue grilled pork with some sticky rice. So
That's
food in San Antonio is also A1. They don't have Mexican food. They have Tex-Mex, but I also love that too. Um, so on its own, it's great. It doesn't compete with Mexican, but on its own, it's pretty good.
well, yeah, like you said, I mean, there's hopefully some chances for Seriously Loco to make their way to some of these nearby or more nearby matches, but the Seriously Loco match preview. Locomotive are back at home at tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Jesus Christ, it's happening so fast. So they're back at home tomorrow against Las Vegas Lights. Guys, I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but this is a Lights team that is absolutely rooted to the bottom of the table. They have one win this season, which came a couple of weeks ago against Phoenix. It has to be said probably that Locomotive at home against Lights, this is a game that they should be getting the 3 points in, and really any other expectation is just wrong.
Well, historically, if you're looking back as far as 2022, Lights do well at the SWUP.
They are since 2022. Las Vegas Lights are averaging 5 goals a game at Southwest University Park.
Oh my god. That's one of those like technically true things that I hate. Um I think that 4-5 or that 5-4
Five,
loss. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone that scored on that night for Vegas is there anymore. So cuz it was Trejo had a brace, Jennings had a brace, and then I think Gaines popped one in. I don't think any of them are there anymore, right? Okay, thank God, because it's on site. If not, if they're still there, I'm kidding, obviously. Yeah, they're awful. Just one win, like by far the worst team in the Western Conference, and are they the worst team in the league? I don't know, but
they are by points the worst team in the league. Although
oh yeah, like points per match, I guess they're not.
Although there are a couple of teams with worse goal differences.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they are by points the worst team in the league, and having played one, well, I guess on average one less match than the rest of the league.
Well, and I kind of am on paper. I'm like, why? Because they've got Eric Torres, who was highly rated as a younger player, Pato Faz, who left, I think, Detroit City. I mean, those are serviceable strikers. It might just be that they're not getting the ball to them, but yeah, I mean, it's a Wednesday night. The fixture congestion's back. It's the first time since March that we've had to play 3 games in a week. I'm sure Brian and Co are not happy about that, and I don't blame them at all. But yeah, this is one of those ones that you just absolutely have to win. And I'm hoping that Josue Aron Gomez can continue scoring, because he's scored a few in this fixture. So, yeah, that would be great if he could do that. But, yeah, we'll see what happens.
just looking at their last match out, which was a 2-1 loss to Monterey Bay. Justin Ingram is the only player that registered a FOTMOB rating above 6.5.
Jeez.
And they just don't really do much with what they got. I mean, they had 13 shots, only 3 on target. And yeah, between Tabor Ataka, who I think played at New Mexico
Correct.
prior, and Foz, they just haven't had a whole lot of luck. I mean, they're kind of reliant on Andrew Carlton to be like the engine, like the creative engine, and he's just not really doing it. So yeah, it's it just hasn't been a good season for Vegas, and coming to the swap, I'm sure won't be like a great prospect for them. I do think, I guess question is, do you think we see a lot of rotation given the three matches? Do you think Brian has this one on the calendar as like, this is one where we can take a risk and maybe give a couple of guys a day off?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see Miles start this one. Give Mark a break, 'cause he's started the last 2, played decent minutes in them. Who else needs some rest? It's like maybe give Eder a break too, and give Nick the start, considering how well he finished the game in San Antonio too. So yeah, I think that there will be some rotation, but I think that maybe there will be a couple of halftime subs too. I don't think he does too much with the starting lineup, but I think we'll see earlier subs than we usually do, assuming that the game is in hand.
It's one of those where Locomotive do have to be a little bit cautious about looking ahead, because obviously you see Vegas on the schedule, and the very next match is Tampa, which is obviously a huge marquee matchup between two of the form teams, and I guess Tampa themselves coming off a dramatic 3-2 win over New Mexico United. So hopefully Locomotive don't get caught like looking ahead too much to Tampa, but I do think there's an opportunity here for a couple of those players, like you said, Lyons, Hines, I think maybe Manny as well. There could be an opportunity for a start in here. Just some of the guys who have maybe a little bit more in the legs, and that drive to knock off a Vegas team that I would say, like, at the risk of whatever memeing, I just think like even our rotation options like should still be able to get the job done, in my opinion.
Well, even if we do smack Vegas tomorrow night, which I hope happens, they are about to win the Stanley Cup, so maybe their fans will be distracted by that at least.
Can we get some sort of hockey related promo when we go to Vegas? Right. Some meme worthy hockey promo of like they put a full rink out on the field at halftime and play 15 minutes, play one period of ice hockey.
Oh my god.
Well, guys, I think that about wraps it up, given the fact that we do have a full week. We've got the Lights game tomorrow at the swap. I know Mika at least will be in attendance to cover that one. And then the Rowdies on Saturday. So big week for Locomotive, and all of that then happening prior to we get another week off after the Rowdies game. So anyways, it'll be pretty intense here over the next couple of days. Looking forward to seeing Locomotive hopefully grab a win against Vegas, and then we'll be back to talk, I guess, when we get the chance. And we'll see whether that's after Vegas or after the Rowdies match. But hopefully we'll talk to everyone soon. Like I said, follow us on whichever social media platform you prefer now, and follow along on your favorite podcast platform. And until we talk to you next time, stay loco.